We don't build armies the way we used to. And we certainly don't play the game the way we used to. So let me ask you, why are you still building terrain the same old tired way? It's time for a new way to build terrain. It's time for tactical terrain. Hey guys, welcome back to Tactical Terrain. As always, my name's Eric. This week, we're going to go back in time and reimagine a classic. Yeah, look at this. This is City Fight Ruins at its best. You got your buttresses, you got your Gothic windows, all kinds of foam core goodness. Yeah, this was state-of-the-art back in 96. Yeah, about when I was making this piece of terrain. Pearl Jam and Nirvana was new, and flannel was the thing to wear, even in the Arizona heat. And wow, those were exciting times. One of the key things you look here, yeah, nasty edges thanks to that particular product. You can also see the shoddy paint job. This was actually my first foray into airbrushing. You can see some of the drip marks where I was a little heavy-handed with the paint. Overall, this is a lovely time capsule in my terrain building history. Pretty sturdy, which is pretty unusual for foam core, but it got the job done. How did you make these things back in the day? Well, you used to start with a stencil. You would buy this, or excuse me, download this from Games Workshop, either be on their website, still floating around the internet now. And you cut out all your shapes at this point, and then would you put all these little curves and glue this down to a piece of foam core, and then come in there with your handy dandy knife. Ta-da! And then you would have to cut each line 3 times. Get through the paper, get through the foam, get through the paper. Which a flat blade trying to replicate a compound curve 3 times usually didn't work. As you can see, we got some wonky curves, lots of inconsistencies. You could probably throw your hands up and just say, yeah, whatever, it's just a ruin, but it just looks sloppy. Time to review the 3 P's of terrain making, proportion being the most important, simply because size and shape will determine not only how it looks, but also how it plays on the table. Purpose, why is it on the table in terms of gameplay? And just because it has a purpose on the table, it still needs to do its part in looking good. So we talk about panache. Got to match the wonderful paint jobs we've given our armies. Specifically, when it comes to ruins, we want to start with the base. West Coast meta generally is a 9-inch by 9-inch base. East Coast meta is generally a 12-inch by 12-inch base, but your local meta may vary, so make sure you've got a basic idea how big the ruin should be. Height is also a big thing. Back when the 3rd edition was flying around, we didn't have flyers. There were no flying gargantuan creatures. So be careful. If you want to not disrupt the flight pattern of your flyers, keep all your terrain below 6 inches. Purpose, ruins are there to obscure line of sight as well as hinder movement, whether it be dangerous or difficult terrain. And if you do want to block line of sight, which is a real hot topic in competitive play, just simply include fewer windows. Most players do not include windows on their bottom floor. When it comes to panache, we're going to show you how to build with layers to give you a lot more depth to your terrain look. And last but not least, don't be afraid of color. Not every building needs to be nasty gray. So first thing we're going to do is all these little buttresses here. No, I'm not going to cut these out individually. I'm actually going to attach them to the main section. This little piece there, these little columns there, I'm going to show you a much better way to do those. And I'm going to start with my own stencil, which I've made out of a nifty piece of cardboard called chipboard, which is a fancy word for the stuff that makes cereal boxes out of. So you can see here, I've included the buttresses, I've got my windows, we're pretty much ready to go. Roughly, I got the windows there, I got the nice Gothic arches going. To this little section there, that's one of our buttress there, and we showed all that. It's roughly in this little gauge there. I'm going to show you that later in the. That's a very handy little tip, so I got to stay to the end of the video to find that out. About 6 inches tall, 9 inches across, because I play mostly in the West Coast meta. But for those of you who don't believe me, here's my handy dandy ruler. There we go, 9 inches from buttress to sidewall. And that's important simply because it does all block line of sight, and as I mentioned, about 6 inches tall. Essential for flyers being able to nap right over. Got our windows ready to go, good size, so average Space Marine size model can still look through it, but it's not completely out in the open. So, and it's also with this height, most of your monstrous creatures and your super heavies are still going to get that 25% cover. So if they're within this particular ruin, you should be good to go. So I've mentioned before, I've got a new product here because I absolutely despise foam core. What we have here is called Depron. Nice and thin. It's about 6 millimeters, roughly a 1/4 inch. And this is actually one of the thicker products they come out with. It comes in 3 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 1 millimeter. It's entirely made of foam, so my foam cutter can go right through it. can use a knife if you want, but not necessary. So unlike foam core, yeah, I don't need to cut it 3 different times. I can zip right through this, go nice and quick. The other thing, unlike the pink foam or the blue foam you normally get from Home Depot, this stuff is wafer thin, so it's great for building up layers. As I mentioned, this is about 6 millimeters, roughly a 1/4 inch, and it comes in varying depths, so that means easy cutting and lots of layering for extra details. Not familiar with Depron? No big deal. Most people use this in the remote control airplane hobby, and but it's actually made its fame at the grocery store. So if you ever bought meat, like hamburger meat, this is the packaging they make. This is the foam that they use. So here I'm still using my little stencil here. I've used some painter's tape to attach it. That way if I ever get sidetracked, I can come right back to it. I got my handy knife. I'm going to cut out the first buttress. If you notice, I'm going to start from the corner, cutting out so I don't damage my main piece. And unlike foam core, as I mentioned, look at this. One cut for that line, and I'm going to do another cut over here. And please, whatever you do, don't use leftover foam from the grocery store that would touch raw meat. That'd be really, really gross. This stuff's pretty cheap to buy new. Alright, so remember, we're going to hold on to that piece that we just cut off, and whoo, the buttresses are ready to go. So 1 cut, 2 pieces, we're already ahead of the game, ready to go. Alright, so next step we're going to do is do the foam cutter. So most people are fairly familiar with the foam cutter. Got electricity flowing through the handle. Heats up the little wire to about 400 degrees, which is a little too warm for chocolate chip cookies, but just right for cutting foam. Pretty handy, nifty little tool here, but for this particular application, not so much. How am I supposed to cut those windows? So I'm going to show you a new tool, which is called a plunge tool. Most people have not seen this. Works the same thing. Electricity flows, heats up the wire, but unlike the last one, I have this long sticky thing. I can stab and get into those windows. It's also great for making craters, by the way. So fire up the heat. Because it's only heated on one side, unlike the other one, which is heated on 2 sides, it does take a little bit longer to heat up. But this is the key. What is the point of having all this cardboard here? Yeah. Hot wire foam cutters do not cut through cardboard. Therefore, I can use this cardboard stencil to guide my blade. So here we go. As I push against the cardboard, the blade stops. But of course, the heat goes right through that foam like a hot butter through a hot knife through butter. Look at that, just ripping right through it. Perfect shape that I wanted. Don't believe me? Let's do it again. Look at this. And because I'm using Depron, again, can't do this with foam core because of the paper, and then also because it's so nice and thin, unlike say like the inch thick Owens Corning foam. I'm making super progress. It's just flying through this video here in real time. No fancy camera effects. Look at this. I'm just zipping right through it. Notice the plunge tool is bending a little bit. Yeah, you don't want to go too fast. You don't want to break your tool. So find just the right speed for you. You can also make further adjustments by cranking up the heat, but I can assure you that, oh, look at that, I screwed up. Alright, so no big deal. We're going to continue to follow, and I showed this on purpose. Even if you mess up, just go back and follow the stencil, cut all the little pieces out, and your next arch will look just like all the other ones. And you see that little piece there I got hanging on there? Don't worry about it. Wait till you're done and your hot wire is cool, because you don't want to be touching the hot wire with your hands while it's still hot. In this case, it just already fell off, which happens a lot too. Little safety tip there. Alright, got one more window to go. Cutting through this. Like I said, I'm zipping through this project pretty quick. Yeah, there we go. Nice corner. Go up the line. There we go. Wunderbar. Okay, so now what we're going to do, turn off the heat a little bit, put that someplace nice and safe. So I've got this stencil, and before I remove the stencil, I still have that mystery slot that I promised I'd tell you about. So first thing I'm going to do is grab my pen. I'm going to mark it off. There we go. I kind of set at this point for 1/2 inch depth there, but it's going to vary, and you'll see why. So first thing I'm going to cut is mark that outer edge. As I lift the stencil up, that little space there, no matter what stencil you want to use, you never want that to be less than 1/2 inch. The foam just isn't strong enough for anything less. So now I'm going to take something, so my walls take a simple sample piece, don't need to do fancy measuring. And I'm going to draw another line, so this way I'm going to create a channel that's exactly the width of my other wall. So here we go. I'll get my metal ruler, continue the line, make sure it's nice and straight. There we go, nice and straight. continue my line all the way down to the bottom. Once again, ooh, that's not straight. Yep, measure twice, cut once. There we go, very good. And I got this little channel that I'm going to do. So now I'm going to bring back the knife, remove the stencil. Don't want to cut the stencil. And go about halfway down the terrain. Cut, one simple cut, and we're good to go. Get the other side of it. In this particular case, it's good to be on the inside of the line, and then just a simple hack right there. Get that piece in place, and I go, oh, see that? It means we didn't cut all the way through. No big deal. Do a second cut. There we go. Remove our little rift. There we go. You see that little hanging chad there? That's because of my blade's not as sharp as it should be, so we'll make sure we'll replace that before the next video. Okay, so there we go. So the first one, I've cut off the top half, and I have a second piece, woohoo, where I've done the same, but at this time, the top half, bottom half. What's going to happen? We're going to slide these two together to make our L-shaped ruin. Watch this, folks. Slide the top to the bottom. Make sure it fits. Be gentle with it. There we go. Ta-da! Instant stability, no crazy support things. Your buttresses are ready to go. Nice one piece. And guess what? You're not done yet? Who cares? Take it apart. Easy storage, but also now they can lay flat for easy painting, so you don't have to worry about trying to hold this crazy piece. You can go back with your foam cutter, either add details like our buttresses or add more ruin damage, which we'll do later on here. So yep, we can see all these nice little pieces fit right on there. Probably glue them on. We're in pretty good shape here. Alright, so quick review of our 3 Ps. Proportion, purpose, so make sure it's the right size, has a reason to be on the table, and last but not least, let's talk about panache. Today's episode, panache, probably a 1 or a 2. We're going to talk about in future episodes how to layer and create a little more detail, so increase the panache level of these particular pieces. So, pretty exciting stuff. Make sure to look at the next video how we expand on what we built on today. Page at ETE Designs. That's ETE Designs on Facebook.